Hello, hi Rajiji. Welcome you to merasangeet.com yet again.
Thank you, Kawalji. Pranam. How are you?
Pranam Rajiji, very well. Thank you. And we are looking forward to hear some good news from you now that there's a change of government. And a lot of us and a lot of our listeners were also looking forward to some changes there in immigration laws. Any kind of insight do you have to share right now at this point in time, Rajiji? Any developments there?
Sure. What I would like to begin with saying is this, that under the Trump administration, we saw some of the worst decision making in all aspects, not just immigration. But especially in immigration, their entire policy was how to cut down on all immigration while making an excuse that we are going after people who are undocumented.
Mm-hmm.
So they announced a number of policies that were as unreasonable as they were ill thought out, not realizing what effect they have on immigration. I have mentioned a Harvard Business Review article that did a study on Fortune 500 companies.
Okay.
I think there were like 471 companies. The day the Trump administration announced a visa ban, the price of the stock, the equity fell by half a point. That was $100 billion. Just one day. In one day, Trump administration cost us $100 billion and lasting losses. So one good thing about the Biden administration is they have experts running the systems. It isn't Mr. Biden coming in and saying, I want it done this way, build the wall, lock her up. There's no chanting. There is no tweeting. Everything is done in a professional, organized manner, which is the first good thing about immigration today. We can expect decision making that is rational, well thought out, and it may not be something we like, but it would always be something that is not completely hatred driven. Not completely, but not hatred driven at all. Not completely illogical. Number one. Number two, while leaving, Trump administration laid a bunch of mines in their exit, and these mines were regulations. Some of these regulations, the Biden administration could just stop. So what happens is once the regulation is published officially, it's very difficult to take it away. But what they can do is they can delay its implementation by a certain number of days. So what the Biden administration did was they immediately froze the two regulations that are bothersome. One is the regulation that says only the highest paid people will get H-1Bs, others won't. And the second regulation is which says we are going to raise the wages for everyone across the board by anywhere from 20 to 50, 60, 70, 80%, which is unreasonable. So right now, those two regulations are frozen, but they are not gone. They are frozen, I believe, till 21st March. H-1B lottery is usually run in the first week of March. How do we deal with that? Are they going to get sued? Because getting sued and reverting the regulation is probably the quickest method. Otherwise, to undo a regulation, you have to make a regulation. Making a regulation takes a lot of work. It can take a few months. Therefore, we would not want this year's lottery to be destroyed by a Trump bomb that he left on his way out. We'll see how it goes. I think our strongest chance is still in court, partly because this regulation is so bizarre. It's very illogical, and I think it's likely to be overturned in courts. Even if Biden administration tried to do away with it, I think they could reopen the regulation for a 30-day period so that more people can comment and they can consider the comments, because these regulations were not, like I said, very well considered. And by the time that period is over, hopefully this year's lottery is gone and this year's lottery is done, we are good. Then by the time next year arrives, he has plenty of time to undo this regulation because it affects mostly only the quota people. While it does affect green cards and it does affect H1s, these are still long-term H1 transfers, etc., long-term issues. And for H1 transfers, amendments, extensions, we can always use private wage surveys that are quite a bit lower than government survey. So in conclusion, what we are looking at right now is a couple of regulations which appear to be manageable, which we should be okay. But at the same time, the last thing Mr. Biden did on the day he took office, January 20th, he sent his legislative agenda, what he wants done on immigration law, to Congress. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head some of the things that were there. So, first of all, he wants the green card waiting periods to be eliminated as fast as possible because people who are India born have been waiting 10, 15, 20 years to get their green card through employment. And that's the first thing they are targeting. And they are targeting it partly by removing the per country quota, which is another ridiculous remnant of times past, which says that every country only gets 7% of the total or less. I'm just making it grossly generalized. In other words, if you are a country with a citizenry of 1,000 people like Vatican City, or you are a country with a citizenship of 1.3 billion people, technically you are allocated the same quota, same numbers. So they are going to take away the per country limits. Second thing they are doing is, right now, if there's a husband and wife, they are counted as two numbers against the annual quota of 140,000 green cards. So two numbers are gone. They are going to decouple, or at least they're going to try, and just count the main applicant. Why should we count their family members? That should increase the available quota. That was one part which was exciting. Some of the things that I also saw, there was a huge acknowledgement to the role of STEM graduates from US universities. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics graduates from US universities will get some kind of an edge. How much of it, I do not know. Under the 2013 law, which was the last major reform attempt made on immigration laws, the way they had it organized was that graduates, STEM graduates from US schools walked out pretty much with a green card stapled onto their diploma. So they were making it really easy at that time, and I think we will see a reflection of that. What has happened is, I wouldn't say that all of the main people who were responsible for moving that law in 2013 are still there. In Senate, 5 out of the 13, but they're all leaders who moved that law are here. Remember that we have the majority in both houses, both chambers. In Senate, we have the majority only by one. That is Vice President Kamala Harris' tiebreaker vote, because Democrats have 50 seats, Republicans have 50, and Vice President Harris has the tie-breaking vote. Very slim minority. We also have a relatively slim minority, not this slim, in the House. I don't recall the exact number, but it still is a majority. We have majority in both chambers. And then we have the White House. So passing laws that only require simple majority should not be that difficult, but we always want to make compromises and write laws that work for everyone. That would bring us probably to some hearings. So before the laws are passed, there might be some immigration hearings. They can be expedited and abbreviated, but they have to be there, or some studies that are taken. So we see that. I think it is exciting in that we should be seeing a comprehensive overhaul of US immigration laws that has long been due. That's where we stand today.
All right. You've explained so much in detail. I'm sure if our listeners have any queries on that, they would certainly reach back to us.
To all our listeners, I'm pretty sure changes are coming, and they're going to be good changes.
Great. So thank you so much, Rajivji, for all your time and for being a part of our show Chat and Chai here on Mirasangeet.com.
Always a pleasure, and my regards and best wishes to our listeners. Thank you, everyone.